we talk about a number of different things. Human augmentation, where we talk about blurring the lines, obviously, between biology and technology. And let's take a look at where we are from an extensive standpoint on these things. So on the left-hand side of this is kind of where we are from a normal and a standard standpoint at the moment. Everything from embedded technology in the augmentation of the ears and the head, temperature sensors on the stitching side of things, hydration, complex systems, and blood oxygenation. We'll go into this a little bit more. Take another step forward onto the right-hand side. We talk about, brain stimulation, implants, gastric stimulation, which is already in place, obviously pacemakers and defibrillators. All of this is technology-based that we're basically putting in or looking to put into the human. And then we take a look at the screen on the bottom, which is basically, we have wearable energy devices. Oh, yes, we do. And we start taking a look at the prosthetic side of things. We start taking a look at the angioplast and all the ECG and the EEG recording capabilities that we're building into the human side of technology. Then we go, okay, well, this is really, really cool, but how are we integrating it? And we start taking a look at how the body is now working with the various different pieces of the technology. And a lot of it's coming down, again, to these devices that we have. So a perfect example, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, are the gastric tablets that you can now take, which will actually communicate with a patch that's on your arm that then communicates with the telephone, which then obviously does telemedicine back to wherever it's going to be. We have the same thing with insulin pumps that are embedded insulin pumps that are talking Bluetooth or BLE out to EEG sensors and various other things. I think we talk about it in a minute, some other architectures. But we always look at, IoT as the phones and the things that we have and the cameras around the house and our IoT fridge and all of the devices that we're building in. We're not thinking about IoT as something that's going to end up in the body. And, we all know the problems and the challenges we have with the IoT cameras and the baby cams and all the other stuff. And it's that same issues and same challenges that we're now building into the body. So yes, IO-bloody-T. Now, this is fun. If we want to hack the body, now this is hacking the body from the outside. The hacking the body from the outside still relies, as you can see on here, all the different types of wireless signals. So for those of you that are looking to come into this industry or change in this industry or do something in this industry, you start looking at the future of medicine and telemedicine and the future of where a network is going. These are some really interesting ones. Body area networks are something that's been worked on fairly extensively. In other words, how do I actually get the body to communicate between these various different systems themselves? There's actually some Ethernet over power that we're using inside the blood vessels and the streams to actually move signals across our own bodies. Some fun stuff. And again, great and wonderful, but unfortunately, it's a lot of it has still got some issues. We're using Bluetooth in the same way we use Bluetooth on these. If I can hack your Bluetooth here, I'd be damn sure I can hack it on your body at the same time. Now, the convenience, some amazing conveniences. And this is where we have to look at society. I saw an amazing post on LinkedIn today where somebody was, or last night / today, where somebody was talking about the fact that we're looking at putting Alexa into cars, which I just giggled. I curled up and I giggled because I'm waiting for somebody to pull up next to me in their fancy sports car. And I'm just going to yell at the Alexa in the car and say, Alexa, go into reverse, and just see what happens, or put the handbrake on, or all those kinds of wonderful things. We get sold a bill of goods by our industry and obviously by the electronics industry in general that we do these things for convenience. As it says, security, bill pay. If I have, and I've had embedded things before, an embedded RFID chip, I can walk up and don't have to use my phone for bill pay. I can walk up and put my hand on the device and go, hey, I'm bill paying this way. Body monitoring conditions, they're already there. Communications, operations, and security, as you come in and out of... No, it's actually fun. The security. So there are a couple of companies. I've seen some reports online where companies are now embedding chips into their employees for monitoring what they're doing, for monitoring them in and out of doors, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So there's some really, really interesting stuff all about that one. Actually, Black Hat Insider Threat. So actually, a slight confession on that Black Hat one. I work for the particular agency that had to look after the person. that actually had to deal with that particular situation a number of years ago, where we suddenly realized a vice president was running around with a device that anybody could hack. It was quite fun, but we could probably do that with the current Womble in place. Anyway, all that to be said, we as society get sold a bill of goods. We get told that these are amazing, they're convenient, and they're all sorts of great things. But unfortunately, we don't necessarily take that step back and go, what are the consequences of those actions? Obviously, one of them is the ability to do surveillance, is the ability to say, hey, I know where that body is. I know what's going on with it. I know what's happening with it. You can see the NSA put out a report yesterday, day before, only 10, 12 years after we started having mobile phones, they put a report out going, hey, mobile phones can be tracked. We probably don't want that to happen quite so much to all of our military and government personnel. Take a step back and realize that we're putting more and more technology into our bodies and around our bodies. And now how do we actually, and where do we take surveillance from there, let alone all the facial stuff? If I can pull biometric data, or if I can pull intelligence about what you're doing and your health and your system. Somebody's not on mute, by the way. So we take it another step further, and it gets really ugly. Now we can actually start looking at the ability to monitor and manipulate signals inside the body. Now I can start to look at genetic code that's running in the megahertz frequency range and go, how can I affect you directly? How close do I have to be? As that question now gets asked. Yeah, potentially I have to be close, but not really. Here's where it gets even more interesting. We look at what's around us. We look at the technology that we've already built in. We already have, to some degree, systems. We have cameras. We have networks inside our houses which look after monitors, surveillance systems. I'm not going to ask any of you to put up your hand and go, how many of you have got an Alexa at home or a Google at home or, the Siri at home or any of those other things, but we have those. Now you go, where do they connect to? What are they connecting to? How is the smart home itself maybe connecting to the smart city, or maybe it's connecting to the car? We've been hacking cars now for the best part of 10 to 12 years. That hasn't changed. Cars have put more stuff in. We can still hack the darn things. So if I need to get you as the human, I don't necessarily have to come into your house with my laptop and my antenna and go, I'm just going to stand next to you and hack you. I'm going to come in via other devices. I'll get you that way. So it gets better. This is a fun one. I love these ones. These are great. I had a number of them sitting on the lab over there. Pill cams. These are brilliant. FDA approved them in 2001. By 2008, pill cams were actually, as you can say, 2 million procedures had used them. And it's a pill. It's just a regular sized pill. I should have dug out some of the old ones. It's a regular sized pill. And what it does is it actually has a camera in it. And it has the camera that communicates with a patch that you also wear. And by the way, it monitors onto the phone. So I can now get into your phone, or I can get into your pill cam, and I can monitor at the same time as you. But if you notice, the one below it is a dosage tracking pill. And the ability now to start looking at how is the dosage working, what's happening with the dosage. So I'm not going to hack it to do anything nefarious to the actual piece itself, but if all of a sudden I adjust the dosage tracking, or I adjust the data that's sending, I put down the dosage, so now you increase it because you think you're getting less, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. General idea is, can I overdose you or underdose you, and at which point, how do I kill you, basically? It's as simple as that. For those of you that, like to sit and vibrate all day, we have a vibrating capsule, so now we can hack the vibrating capsules. This is where it gets even more fun. So those nice systems that we actually have, almost every single one of those 2 million, user ID administrator, password administrator to get into the damn thing. So if you want to hack somebody's, gastro or pill or dosage pill, that'll get you into the damn things. Worst case scenario, if you can't get into the tablet itself, but you actually want to get into the control system that most of the healthcare systems use to get into it, user ID rapid, no password. So this is worse than just a standard facepalm. We actually are going to go with the presidential facepalm at this point in time. Now, if that wasn't good enough, we actually have an even more fun one. We have MIT is actually coming out with actually a pretty awesome smart capsule. It will actually do full diagnostics and treatment monitoring, all sorts of Bluetooth connectivity, all sorts of customizations for medications, you name it. This thing's actually, to give them credit, it's actually really, really cool. It's amazing. It's a really, really, it gets worse. Oh, it gets worse than this. This is nothing. This is the fun stuff. We get crazy shit next. Sorry, Amara. This is really interesting. And it's, again, this is charging down technology's route for the sake of technology, not necessarily thinking about it from the human standpoint. So we have all these fun things and we have all this good stuff. Now, MIT basically said the limited connection range is desirable security enhancement. As you can see, self-isolation, wireless signal strength, physical space, yada, yada, yada. Dear MIT, this is obviously known as security by obscurity. If you have this device and it's in range, let's say you're sitting here and it's actually pulling all of the information it needs to pull in, the ability for me to get to this device, now I'm hacking you through your phone or through your other PDA device or through the computer you're uploading it from. You are an extension of that network. Simple as that. I just saw the question appear up in apparently, so to Morgan's point, if I actually go back to that slide, if you look at it, there are two antennae that stick out, and apparently it's meant to lodge in your stomach for about a month. And let's face it, if it disappears down the gastric tract, your phone will probably tell you either that or the stupid thing is going to vibrate on its way out. Who the hell knows? Prune juice. Yeah, no shit. How to hack you with prune juice. All right. So still want the extended life. We haven't even started, by the way. So the stuff I'm going to show next is stuff I've been working on since 2015, 2016, and I've been fortunate to get dragged into a bunch of different places. We're going to start talking about nanotechnology and bio-nanotechnology. So nanotechnology, so take nanocarbon. So it's molecular carbon. Typically, it's a gold molecule, but it's broken down into the carbon molecular. So it's a molecule. What we were able to do, or what a set of research labs were able to do back in 2016, as you can see on the screen, that's actually a basically microscopic level view of forming those nanocarbon tubes into letters, into alphabets, into patterns, into shape, all this other kind of good stuff. It's all done by signal inference. So if I apply a certain type of pulse, or I have a certain type of laser, or a certain type of signal to these nanocarbon tubes, they work in certain different ways. And you can program them, which we'll get into in a minute. So this was 2016. We were basically teaching them how to think. We were starting to look at basically just simple things, how to get them to move, how to get them into patterns and stuff like that. Fast forward to 2017, started to figure out how to get them to move. Again, the logic here is if I can put a nanocarbon architecture inside your body, I can have it move around your body. I can have it deliver medicines and drugs and all sorts of other things. But first, you've got to get the stupid thing to move. First that we did is basically you make your carbon nanotube, and then what you ended up doing is putting a set of carbon tails on the back of the thing, kind of like the stuff from the Matrix, the little swimmy things that move around. It's amazing how form follows, science follows, all sorts of other things. You can get them to move, as it says. Basically, MRIs were used fairly extensively in this one. The next thing we ended up figuring out from now on is getting them to actually understand how to do coding. So if you notice on that A plus B plus C and C and stuff like that, they're all different types of gate carbon nanotubes. So different types of ones have different types of functions. All this to be said, what we're trying to do is build more and more complex machines at a molecular level to do certain functions around the body. And we're almost there. So at the moment, microneedle is injected through a standard needle into the eye. So the ability now to actually get these things to go into the eye and do basically microscopic surgery at a molecular level. Blocked arteries. Some amazing stuff on blocked arteries that can actually be done by iron oxide beads that literally go around and unblock the artery. I mean, it's like using Drano for the body. I wouldn't advise doing Drano. Our president said use the freaking chemicals. Don't do that either, please. As it says, draw through the arteries. And then classical biopsies. So the whole concept are basically a polymer architecture that's nanotube constructed that will then expand and basically put more bioengineering stuff. Yeah, 2010. Yeah, there's some amazing research from Nina. Some of this shit's actually fantastic. It's kind of fun being as part of this stuff. This is where science and biology and science and technology and chemistry and physics, to be honest, on this stuff, sits down and gets together with the coding folks, and then we get together and we start looking at, okay, how do we do this from an engineering standpoint? How do I actually get these ready things to talk? So in the best ways of XKCD, we're going to do a little bit of science. On the left-hand side of the screen is a piece of software called Cello. Cello uses something, as it says, Verilog, that something looks like a cross between BASIC and assembler. And the whole idea here is it's basic level gate engineering code. What you're trying to do is you look at the second layer, and then that third section on the right-hand side is you're building a set of codes that you can then turn into a signal wave. So just like we basically, hello, Amy's husband, just like we basically turn around and go, hey, I've made a computer program that moves a blob across the screen, think about taking that code and turning it into a signal and then moving that signal. Basically think of it as a network, but instead of using a traditional network, we're using, in this case, a high frequency signal that we need to use to communicate with these things, because you can't exactly plug an RJ45 into a molecule. So we have to figure out different ways of doing this one. Now, this is where we got to with this one. This was actually done in a lab. It was actually fantastic, actually helping out. And to Nina's point, it's actually amazing doing some fun stuff on this one. Hello, Nina's, not Nina's. Hello, hello, Amy's husband. All right, so here's what we did. And this was all done in a lab, more than just a petri dish, but it was kind of cool. We ended up basically, as you see, on the right-hand side, we've got the little diagram. We have our keys, our receptor binding A's, aptamers, our transporting siRNA, basically bird flu. Bypassing tool, ribosines, image reporter, drugs, and disruptors. So we basically ended up building, the best way of putting this is a vaccine, and a vaccine that was actually very well programmed. Now, they did this in a massive, great big lab. Then they turned around to us and said, how would you hack this? What would you be able to do that would actually be able to hack this? And we ended up working with a bunch of folks up in Canada who were freaking amazing. What they figured out was this molecular communication capability. So we talked to them very, very extensively and said, can we use it, beg, steal, borrow it? Can we pay you money for it? And all this kind of good stuff. And we end up, as it says, an Arduino Uno, sensors, and a couple of other things. The logic here is, can we do molecular communications? And in our instance, the answer was obviously yes. This is about, as it says, about $100 worth of gear. We tested this with nanotubes that you can buy. You can go out and buy nanotubes on the open internet. We programmed the damn things how we wanted to program them. And then instead of putting them in the body, we used good old Febreze. And we actually dropped the nano stuff into Febreze. We misted the Febreze and we sent it from one side of the building to the other side of the building. And we picked it up using these sensors. And we were able to actually decode and recompile the program. It's actually kind of fun. So in English, what we ended up doing is they took bird flu, put it onto a whole bunch of multi-walled nanotubes, fooled the body. So you think about this in a network terminology, you bypass the firewall and the IDS and the IPS. The propulsion system to move it in the body was those carbon nanotubes with the crazy tails. The tracking and tracing methodology was, if you think about networking terminology, our ability to communicate back to a command and control center. In our case, it was that MQ sensor that we were using there. The decoys, we didn't have the best of decoys, but yes, you can deliver a vaccine that way. That's actually what they were trying to do. We'll talk about that. Yeah, as you can say, if we're nice to bottom, you can actually go after cancer cells, clean clean arteries, go after Alzheimer's, and a whole bunch of other things. It was actually fantastic, amazing work. And so, great stuff. But, and for any of you that saw the post that we put out today, if I'm not feeling very nice, we actually recoded those particles. So that Verilog code that we ended up building, we re-encoded the particles that they had to go after, as it says, endothelial cells, which are the blood vessel linings. We also went after white blood cells to compromise the immune system. So that'll obviously screw up your liver. It screws up your ability to actually move blood around the system. We screwed up your entire immune system, and we did it obviously in a very careful environment. But we were able to recode their nice stuff to do what we wanted to do with about $100 worth of equipment. A lot of testing in the lab, a whole lot of thing. Now, great, that's cool, that's in a lab. But if you think about where we're going with this, if you walk into the physician's office and, like me, you've got cancerous stuff on the skin, and they go, hey, we can take care of that for you. We're just going to inject you with some nanotubes, kadunk. Great, simple. I don't actually have to go under the needle or any of that kind of stuff. Now I'm being tracked and monitored by this. It's telling me how it's going and everything's going nice. We talk about ransomware. We talk about the ability and where ransomware is going. And now we start going, okay, how many people have these? Well, we already know as of 2008, 2 million people had those little capsules in them. I know how many are out there now, and I know the frequency I need to do to change them. Now, I'm going to be nice. I'll be kind of cool on this one. I'm just going to charge you $100. That's it. But I'm going to keep charging you $100. Every couple of weeks, I'll come back and I'm like, hey, you feeling healthy? How about you pay me another $100 so that I don't re-encode these to go after your blood vessels and your blood linings? You're not getting rid of that stuff in your body for an extended period of time. It's not going away, and there's no way at the moment that you can stop me from doing what I'm doing. So, fun stuff. Hence, we get it wrong now, and this is, I think, the big difference in security. This is where we as an industry have to take a step back. This is when we as an industry really have to go, it's no longer about the computer. When we screw up, it isn't just a matter of building another server. This is when we're starting to impact humans. This is when we're starting to look at what and how humans are interacting with technology. This is how we start looking at everything that we're building into humans. And we have to go, we as an industry have to take a different stance. So, as it says, the curse of long life. Sorry, I'm reading some of these other things. COVID isn't something, COVID isn't something like this. Believe me, COVID is natural, unfortunately, and it fucking sucks. That's the nicest way I can put it. All right, so where are we so far? This is the stuff I am currently working on. I've kind of talked about this a little bit so far. That machine that's behind me, I'm actually building a full EEG system. What I'm actually doing with it is I'm trying to replace passwords by simply the bioarchitecture that we have as humans. There's all sorts of interesting, unique stuff that we have as humans. And so can we use that to be our password? Argument, yes. Where am I at the moment? When I walk into my lab space, if I have my other set of glasses on, it recognizes who I am. They've actually got EEG sensors on there. It recognizes me. I recognize it. Computer's open. Everything's happy. It does the same thing for the phone and a couple of other devices around here. So our simple existence becomes our passport and our keys and our ability to actually understand who we are. There's some really, really cool stuff I'm building on this. But again, if we're going to hack this stuff, we have to be hacking the human. This is, 5 to 15 years time. Somebody else isn't on mute and there's a lot of background. If they wouldn't mind muting, that would be hugely appreciated. Thank you very much. Next step on this one. So we're starting to digitize consciousness. I'm working my way through this one fairly extensively. I'll be honest, I'm having some fun with this because at some point in time, I would like to retire to a nice AS400 somewhere in New Zealand, and I'll be happy there. And so we have to look at where we go as humans. We have to look at, and for those of you that are a hell of a lot younger than me, probably half my age, this is the world that you are working into and coming into, which is we are starting to look at how we're breaking down the physical and the digital worlds and how much we're interacting in one or the other. COVID has obviously pushed us much more to the digital side of the world. And if we do that and we can start building in some kind of like augmentation and consciousness mushroom, then we start looking at really what are we as a human, which has all sorts of interesting conversations. Stuff I'm messing around with is obviously electrical impulses, turning us into electrical impulses, sequencing, and all sorts of other fun things. So there's some really cool stuff on societal change and, who goes digital, how goes digital, who has the power to determine the future. There's some really fun stuff. This is some realms of science, fact, and fiction, which is coming true and true and true as far as we go. So for those of you that thought I was actually going to have some fun with just telephones and tell you how bad social media was and how terrible it is and how easy it is to hack you, it is. It's simple. It's all pretty nasty, and there's no easy solution to it, to be perfectly honest. Aside from guard your privacy more effectively. But that, as I hopefully have shown you, is nothing more than the tip of the iceberg. And quite honestly, the phones and social media is nothing more than a stepping stone to get to you, the human. And at the moment, you, the human, is simply just a matter of taking money from you. You, the human, in the next 5 to 10 years, it is going to be you, the human, that I ransomware. So start thinking about how we deal with that.